So in between videos, I'm going to start uploading non or lightly animated videos about stuff I want to say that would otherwise pass me by because of time constraints. Also because
I'm a very important person, and I have very important things to say.
I'll label these videos with a thought after it, so you can say,
Boo! Fuck off, Sitch. I'm only here for the dank memes.
Anyways, in case you haven't heard, an employee at Google wrote a 10-page memo on their internal server explaining how, among other things, the gender gap that exists at Google may be because of biology and not
the dread patriarchy holding women down.
He basically goes through how, on average, men and women tend to have different areas of interest and expertise, and that this is because of biology. Specifically, he mentions, women on average show a higher interest in people and men in things. Which might be why the jobs of staring at your computer alone in the night, coding or editing, is still heavily male-dominated. Also, that women's extroversion expressed as gregariousness rather than assertiveness, and also have higher agreeableness. This leads to women generally having a harder time negotiating salary, asking for raises, speaking up, and leading. As well as, status is the primary metric that men are judged on, pushing many men into these higher paying, less satisfying jobs for the status they entail. Women on average look for more work-life balance, while men have a higher drive for status, on average. So how do you think the regressive internet feminists reacted when this memo leaked to the public? Why, they were just outraged!
It's an outrage?
That's right, Dale.
I am outraged! I really am.
Leading to incredibly dishonest headlines like, all ignoring, of course, that the author also said, I value diversity and inclusion, am not denying that sexism exists, and don't endorse using stereotypes. I'm not saying that all men differ from women in the following ways, or that these differences are just. I'm simply stating that the distribution of preferences and abilities of men and women differ in part to biological causes, and that these differences may explain why we don't see equal representation of women in tech and leadership. Many of these differences are small, and there's a significant overlap between men and women. So you can't say anything about an individual given these population-level distributions. No, obviously he is saying that women are biologically just not suited to code and should all be forced to cook barefoot in the kitchen for their men. Of course, after all the feminist outrage, the employee's name was also leaked to the public, and he was fired. He's going to sue Google, so here's hoping. Anyways, one questions how feminist interpretation of the memo is so bafflingly incorrect. Of course, there is the usual that simply daring to bring up biological differences is an automatic triggering point. And of course the whole dog whistle thing, that they believe he is really lying, and is secretly evil and just wants to use biology to hold women down. But they never actually say that they think he's lying, just stare at his memo and have their eyes glaze over these parts, like they're some kind of feminist Westworld robot.
Doesn't look like anything to me.
It wasn't until reading this sparkling piece of sewer trash, with a title that will make you consider death by carbon monoxide poisoning, that it all became clear to me. It's
present day. Present time.
current year.
Current year.
And people are still debating whether or not women are intellectually inferior to men, and whether we are entitled to a workplace that isn't toxic to people, simply based off their gender and sex. Of course, the author of the memo never said women were inferior, just different on average. However, this inferior line was being passed around by everyone, and that's when it hit me. The reason all these feminist types are interpreting this as him saying women are inferior is because, rather ironically, they all believe in the patriarchy, and not just that it exists, but that the patriarchy is correct. You see, The idea is that certain qualities like assertiveness and striving primarily for status through a job, these qualities are valued because they're patriarchal ideas. They are valued because they have historically been attributed to what it means to be a man. So if it bothers you that men are more likely to have these qualities than women, then that means you too must agree with the patriarchal view that these qualities should be highly valued. So great job, SJWs. I'm glad you've all accidentally exposed the fact that you believe the patriarchy is correct. I tweeted this to the author of said article, and she has yet to respond. Her timeline instead filled informing her followers how to block people they don't like. But I doubt I will ever receive a response from her, because of course all I'm doing is man questioning.